Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley speaking to you from Washington, D.C. Now, the Syrian situation is developing rapidly, and the imperialist cause is taking it on the chin in quite a few of these most recent developments. The very interesting news this morning is that a top commander of the Free Syrian Army, that is to say a moderate terrorist, not an extremist terrorist, has been killed by one of the Al-Qaeda extremists in this despicable combination. The victim is Kamal Hamami. Kamal Hamami, a commander of the Free Syrian Army, again, allegedly a moderate, not the extreme wing, has been assassinated by the Al-Qaeda groupings. Now, this Kamal Hamami is also known under the name of Abu Basir al-Ladkhani. He is allegedly one of the top 30 members of the Supreme Military Command of the, in quotes, Free Syrian Army. Gee, I wonder what General Salim Idris, the golden boy, the darling of the CIA, has to say about this. I wonder if Hamami himself, Hamami Ladkhani, as he's sometimes known, whether this Hamami Ladkhani is also a darling of the CIA. Now, the killing was carried out personally by a certain Louay Mekdad. Mekdad is, he's telling us, this is the guy reporting the assassination. Mekdad is telling us he's the FSA Supreme Command political coordinator, the political commissar of Idris, it looks like. He says that the killer is Abu Ayman al-Baghdadi. Al-Baghdadi sounds like he's coming in from Iraq, probably somebody who's killed a lot of U.S. forces there. He is the emir of the coastal region for this alleged Islamic State, which is what one of the groups at least wants, right? Whether it's the Nusra network, that's harder to say, but one of the members of the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. The Levant, of course, the Levante, the east, right? The place where the sun comes up. That's the eastern shore of the Mediterranean. It's essentially Lebanon and Syria, and it goes inland up to a point. So members of that emirate, the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. So these are terrorists coming in from Iraq. They are undoubtedly veterans of the fighting against the U.S. forces there. How interesting. And these are the people that the British and the French want to support, and that the Obama administration says we should now arm. Well, that's not a good idea, is it? So the fighting among the death squads is now the shocking new reality. And, of course, that means if you give advanced weapons to the so-called moderates of the FSA, then along come the Nusra people and the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, and they kill the moderate beneficiaries, and they take the advanced weapons and use them according to their nefarious goals. Even the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, the British tailor in Coventry, linked to Rifat Assad, right, the half-brother of the elder Assad, right, this older group, they admit that there have been numbers of clashes between the people coming in from Iraq and the other more indigenous people. The FSA and the Islamic State have had violent exchanges in several areas of Syria over the past 2 weeks, showing the growing antagonism between Assad's foes. Last Friday, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant killed an FSA rebel in Idlib province and cut his head off, decapitated him. And there have been attacks in many provinces, says this tailor, Rami Abdel Rahman, right, paid by Rifat Assad, as far as published reports have alleged. So this is the situation. It is a tremendous embarrassment for anybody proposing to support these killers, and that includes the Obama administration. So remember, the benchmarks are these. Obama has one merit. Up to now, he says no to the 1,000-bomber raid and the 5 divisions and the tanks and the infantry and the big ground assault and everything that goes with it. No to that. No to the carrier groups in the Eastern Mediterranean, in the Red Sea, in the Arabian Sea. No, 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 says Obama. Do it all on the cheap. Do it all through these other means, right? Use proxy forces, play Turkey, play Egypt, play others against the government of Assad, but that's not working. So it's important to hold on to the fact that Obama is saying no to the big war. He says yes to the little war, absolutely, to the treacherous war, the stealth war, cyber, economic sanctions, assassinations, drones, special forces, proxies, buck passing, you name it, does all that. But that's not working. So the important thing is to keep Obama, to stop Obama from declaring the big war until the death squads have been eliminated from the picture, dispersed or hurled to their reward. So this is the relevance now also of the other side of the coin, which this news this morning is going to make worse. New front open in Syria as rebels say al-Qaeda attack means war. Now, open war between the rebel factions. How interesting. Yesterday, already, Thursday, July 12th, we have the main headline of the Washington Post. Divisions on the Hill stall Syria plan. The Obama administration's month-old plan to arm opposition fighters in Syria has stalled as a result of congressional disagreements over whether and how to aid the rebels seeking to oust President Bashar al-Assad. And here we find the people who have failed. Briefings and personal visits have come from top administration officials, including Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary of State John Forbes Kerry of Skull and Bones, and we'll get to him later. We want him impeached. And the CIA Director John O. Brennan have failed to shake strongly held views in the U.S. Congress, according to various administration officials and congressional sources. So let's just look at a little bit of this delicious detail. Now, this is something that people in the United States can and must contribute to. Those congressional hacks will be going home for the summer vacation before too long. They're going to have public meetings. You've got to go to them and say, not one penny, not one bullet, nothing for the death squads, for the killers, the crazies in Syria. We don't want any part of them, and if you do, that will be a Nuremberg crime. So what we have in this interesting article, the vocabulary above all, is highly interesting. We're told that it's a quagmire in the making, and we'll be back in just a minute on World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. This is the edition for Friday, the 12th of July. Congratulations to the French for their national holiday coming up on Sunday, the 14th of July, right? The French Revolution, a very interesting thing to keep in mind when you look at Egypt, because there are some interesting comparisons, which we will elaborate maybe a little bit today, but primarily in future weeks. Right now, it's the fact that the Al-Qaeda branch, the Islamic Emirate of Iraq and the Levant, their coastal emir, has killed Kamal Hamami, a moderate, in quotes, Free Syrian Army commander. So the takfiris, the holier-than-thous, the sectarians, I'm tempted to call them the Gnasio Islamists, right? Remember the old Gnasio Lutherans of the late 1500s, right? The real hardliners, the real doctrinaires, nobody good enough for them, and if you're not good enough, watch out, they'll behead you. So this Kamal Hamami is dead, and this means open war between the moderate FSA of Idris and the Al-Qaeda link. Now, interesting, which way will the Nusra boys go? Which way will the Farouk brigades go? Right, the Farouk are the people who did the cannibalism of the disemboweled victim in the recent video. So all of this going on. And certainly this will have an impact on the U.S. Congress. You see, the political stupidity of these characters is overwhelming, right? They have no sense of what they're doing. They are not clever, to put it mildly. But neither is the Obama administration. Now, I would have to say this at the beginning of this consideration. This Obama strategy of getting the money from Congress to arm the rebels is so feckless and so stupid that one might think this is a strategy designed a priori to fail, that Obama wants it to fail, gets him off the hook, and switches the attention to his emissaries, right, as we heard, Biden, Kerry, and Brennan, and to the relevant congressional committee. So Obama comes out looking okay, whereas these other people are the ones that are slogging there in the congressional mud at the base of Capitol Hill. So here's what we have. The approach of the Obama regime, first of all, is narrow, narrow, narrow. They're going with the people on the intelligence committees, right? Mike Rogers in the House, reactionary Republican, the odious totalitarian liberal Feinstein on the Senate side, and their respective ranking members. I think it's Dutch Ruppersberger on the House side, but and I think who is it? Corker on the perhaps not Corker, but somebody else. Here's the thing: it's a very narrow approach, and all the senators in particular and congressmen also who are excluded from these briefings are boiling with rage and resentment. And here's the quote: the strategy being used, according to Corker, is what the Obama administration is seeking is to do this, in other words, arm the killers, arm the terrorists, covertly, so that they never need to make a case to the American people, and only a handful of people are involved, says Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee, senior Republican on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I think it's a terrible policy. Corker and Menendez, mafioso from New Jersey, remember him with his angel going down there to the Caribbean. They co-sponsored a bill in May authorizing the administration to send weapons, but neither one of them, not Corker and not Menendez, has been allowed to get a secret briefing on what Obama wants to do. They're being very clumsy about this, says Corker. Time is a-wasting. This is beyond ridiculous. Now, again, this is, maybe it's just normal ineptitude. It seems to me this is by design, that Obama is sabotaging his own effort, but again, it's the mud is sticking to others, because Obama is not mentioned in these stories anywhere near as much as his various minions. But then we find, and this reminds us, throughout the last year, writes the Washington Post, a growing number of lawmakers from both parties, including then Senator Kerry, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, have called for increased U.S. involvement and a consideration of a no-fly zone to protect civilians in rebel-held areas from Assad's air bombardments. An administration debate over whether to send weapons was never resolved. So, in other words, this reminds us Kerry has been a hawk on Syria for years. From the